wanted to jump on today and kind of talk a little bit about some of the crazy stuff that's been going on recently. Um, One of the things that we're seeing, obviously, is that um, we're kind of in a place where the stuff that we've been going through over the last couple of weeks um, is now becoming something that we're not just seeing as a passing phase. We thought maybe it might last a couple of weeks, but it sounds like we're going to be like this for a while. And I think with that, what ends up happening is maybe over the last couple of weeks we've been treating all of this like maybe we were taking a bit of a vacation. Like we get into vacation mode. Like this is going to pass. People tend to, when we're stressed, we tend to go and do the things that we feel most comfortable doing. But that doesn't always mean that that's actually the best thing for us. So sometimes we actually end up doing things that are not that helpful for us in the long run. None of us really know how to do this thing where we stay inside all the time and not go out and do the things that we normally do. And we have to adapt to how that feels over a long period of time. So today I just kind of want to talk about how that stress ends up having an impact on how we handle it. Over the last couple of weeks when things were going, our lives were like going very, very quickly, and then all of a sudden everything kind of just stopped, everybody went into this panic mode. So the way I can describe that is to say that we were all operating from a place of a lot of like primal fear instinct. And there's a part of our brain that's like pretty primitive, that doesn't really do a really good job when it comes to fear. It does a lot of panicking and a lot of just keeping us alive, which is why we start toilet paper start to disappear off the shelves, and people were panicking about that. More recently, you'll notice that now that we're settling into things, this is when our mammalian brain starts to kick in. So this is the more evolved part of ourselves that now can kind of reason and make sense of some of the stuff that's been happening. And that is allowing us to kind of like make sense of what is happening now, and come up with plans around how to handle some of it. So that also brings down our anxiety a fair amount. And now that things aren't changing every day, it's just, they're still happening, they're just less. It also makes it easier. One of the things that's really tough about it is that our lives were just going, and all of a sudden everything just stopped. And now we're stuck in this place where we can't make things happen the way that we want to make them happen. One of the things I say to my clients all the time, they hear me talk about how change and environmental transition is one of those things that really causes us stress. We could get, a new situation in our lives, like if you think about what it was like graduating high school and going on to college and what that experience was like. It was a big transition, and you had to learn how to do things differently all of a sudden. There's lots of times in our lives when things like that happen. The first time you have a baby, maybe it's the first time you get out of college and then you have to work for a living. There's lots of things like that we do that when we don't know what that new transition is going to look like, we have a really hard time adapting at first. And that's very similar to what's going on right now. None of us really know how to do this thing where we stay inside all the time and not go out and do the things that we normally do. And we have to adapt to how that feels over a long period of time. There are 5 major things that make up a good solid routine right now. The big ones are waking up at the same time, going to bed at the same time. And there's usually a routine associated with these. What does it look like when you first get up? What does it look like when you're going to bed? In between that, we have our meals, obviously. That's another thing that we want to make sure we're having. So trying to get 3 meals in, if not 2, maybe some snacks, things like that. And then we want to try and get exercise/fresh air every day. So whether or not you do that outside, I would still encourage you to get a little bit of outside time, whether that's sitting out on a balcony, maybe it's just, standing out in your front yard for a little bit. Maybe it's actually going for a walk. If you do a more rigorous exercise routine indoors, that might be helpful, but you definitely need the sunlight and you need some of the fresh air. That's also going to help with our sleep, because we need a certain amount of vitamin D anyway, and at least now our days are getting longer and there's more sunshine, so that's really important. So you might find that you need to have contact with people every day. And that means being a little bit more creative, obviously. We're having to use online systems a lot more to be able to have face-to-face conversations with people. So we got to think outside the box and be a little bit more creative that way. So I would say like having contact with somebody once a day is probably a good thing. If you're living with your family and maybe you're living with your partner, it's also okay to have the conversation around like, I need my own space for a part of the day. That's perfectly fine to be able to say that to someone. And it needs to just be like a very matter-of-fact thing that like both of you are going to need your space at some time. And it doesn't mean that anything sinister is coming from that. It's just a natural state of being. So trying to find a balance around those things, very, very important. The last thing, which is not really part of the 5 things, the last thing I've been bringing up with a lot of my clients is the idea of having a list of things to do. I think what happens is people try to schedule these in like they should be things that you need to make priorities or that they need to be super productive. Like, let's go clean all of these closets or let's do all of our spring cleaning. Those are not necessarily things that need to happen. It's better if you have a variety of these things. So a variety of opportunities to engage in some productive activities and some fun activities, and mix these things up. Maybe some of them should be independent, maybe some of them should be with other people. So again, going back online, maybe there's people in your home that you can do that with. Finding a way to kind of do both. The other thing with the list is that you'd like it to be something that helps you think about all the different aspects of ourselves that keep us well. So you want to think about your social wellness, physical wellness, emotional, mental, and spiritual. And you want to pick and choose different things that help you to kind of get in touch with those different aspects of yourself. This produces like a much wider way of looking at these things. And so when you do that, what ends up happening is you end up having more fulfillment overall. And it's not a requirement to try and get in every day. It's just that with the longer this goes on, the better it's going to be able to pick and choose from these things. Now, you might go and start one of these activities and you don't want to finish. And that's fine. Maybe you start it and you're like, oh, I'm not really feeling this. I want to go do something else. Do that. Try it for 20 minutes. If you don't like it, don't have any, judgment around that. Just go and pick something else and try something else off the list. You can always come back to that thing again. It's more that you have some generated ideas that you can operate from. The major thing that I try to bring up with people is that when you're working from home, you want to have a real designated space that's sacred for work, for your work environment. So, especially because some of us are living in, we could be living in a studio apartment. Some of us have actual offices in our houses. That stuff kind of works. But especially if you're in a small space, having a designated area that's specifically just for work is really, really important. And it's really important that when you take your lunch break, you get up and you walk away and go and take your lunch break. Another way of kind of looking at that is to recognize that we might need alarms to keep us accountable for a period of time until things start to feel like more of a habit. So, setting an alarm to be at work for a specific time, being able to set an alarm for lunch, again, walking away from where you were and going and actually taking a proper lunch. Maybe you need to set breaks for yourself in the middle of the day. That's important. In addition, at the end of the day, one of the things I say to a lot of clients is think about how you can kind of end your day. So maybe that's that you pack up your stuff for the day, make a list for what you want to work on the next day, and then you actually physically leave your house maybe and go for a walk around the block, or take 10 minutes and sit out in your backyard or on your balcony before you decide that you're going to go back inside. And so maybe you're going to follow up with like doing something like talking to a friend at the end of the day. If you're going to do something like that, move to your couch or to another spot in your home that's not that designated area to engage in that conversation. So that kind of idea. The other thing is, and I think this is really tough, is that we all feel this obligation to be doing as much work as possible during this time. And really and truly, we're having a hard time motivating ourselves as it is. So really try to be kind to yourself around how much work you're producing, because it's tough to try and make everything work in this environment that we're in now, and we're all trying to learn how to redo things from home. We all don't know how we're doing this. So that's one part. The other part is like push back against expectations that maybe your employer has for you. If somebody's emailing you at 8 o'clock at night and you work till 5, there's no reason for you to be responding to that, and it doesn't change the fact that you're at home and you're more available. The same rules should apply. So, and of course, unless your job actually dictates that that's what you need to be doing. But again, there's a lot of employers that kind of maybe act in this way, and then you think that that's the expectation. It's not necessarily the expectation. This is something we have to check out, and we have to find out what the boundaries are around this, because nothing should change suddenly because of this. Some employers or supervisors or people who have more stake in the company that they're working in feel they have to do more because they're trying to catch up. That doesn't mean you have to do that, though. There's a number of things around this that really have to do with our routines. So, just to kind of recap, the major ones, you want to try and hit those 5 things a day that you're doing to maintain your routine. So again, wake up routine, your meals, getting fresh air / exercise in some sort of way, having an opportunity to communicate with somebody or state your boundaries around getting a little bit of time on your own, and then also your sleep routine. And then the other thing we talked about was how to set up a workspace. So I'm hoping to be able to post more of these types of things as things progress. If you have any questions, you want to get in touch with me, by all means comment. Or you can shoot me an email at my website, www.sarah, the letter G, Horsford, HORSFORD.com. And I look to hear from you. Please stay safe, stay healthy, and please have a peaceful isolation period.